We are live. Hey there, how is it going? Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, June the 23rd. Summer is here, a summer video chat. Finally, all right, looking forward to it. All right, so I'm just going to wait a moment, let a few people pop onto the live stream here. And for those of you who are joining in, I do apologize. I'm a few minutes late getting started. I was actually in another meeting that ran a bit late, so I was a bit late getting started. But you know what? We'll make up for it. I usually, I always promise an hour with these video chats, and very often they go longer than an hour. So I'm sure we'll still get a full hour of video Q&A. And for those of you who are brand new to these video chats, I want to welcome you. It's always nice to have new people joining in, as well as the regulars. And the way this works is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, answering questions and topics of discussion related to fitness and nutrition, any specific challenges that you may have when it comes to your workouts, comes to your nutrition plan, anything along those lines. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our video chat window there. Whether you're watching on YouTube, there's a live chat window there. If you're watching on Facebook, there should be the comment section below. You can type in either one, and it will pop up here on my end, and I'll be able to answer those questions and do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our video chat. All right, so let's see. Hopefully this is coming through loud and clear. If it is, please let me know. Just type into the chat window saying that it is coming through loud and clear. All right, who do we have? Let's see. We have Big Doug joining in, saying, hey, how's it going? Cool gamer. Welcome, guys. Glad to have you joining in. I have Jason joining in, saying, I wish I could stay. Appreciate it. Well, if you're here now, if you do have any questions, comments, or feedback, or anything that you'd like to discuss, feel free to type it in. We have Mick is joining in. Awesome. Glad to have you joining us. Welcome. Good morning. So you must be from the other corner of the globe, somewhere around Australia, New Zealand, somewhere around there, I would guess, if it's a good morning for you. Excuse me. And yeah, that's another cool thing. As you're tuning in, let me know where you're tuning in from. It's always interesting to see, because I know we have an international audience who normally joins in for these live Q&A, and Mickey is saying he's from Australia. I'm glad to have you joining in. Welcome. Yeah. So it's interesting just to see the people who join in from different parts of the world. Like most of the time, it's usually North America, but we do get some guys joining in from Europe. We do get some guys from Australia, New Zealand, different parts of the world. Got Big Doug joining in from over in Ontario. We have Kevin joining us from Ireland. Glad to have you here. Scott from Glasgow, Scotland. Scott from Scotland. We have Danish from England. Welcome. Again, all across the globe. Here we go. That's awesome. And I'm in Newfoundland, Canada, East Coast Canada. I'm not too far from where a lot of this hype that we've been seeing in the news recently about the submarine that went down to the Titanic that imploded. That's literally just off the shore from where I live. So it's an unfortunate incident for sure, but I'm sure you've probably seen it. It's been all over the YouTube news feed and local news feeds and everything else, which is certainly unfortunate, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's my neck of the woods, if you will, up there. Who else we got joining in? We got Solid Jedo from Southern California, from SoCal. Welcome. Glad to have you joining in. And we have Rob's a regular. Glad to have you joining in, Rob. Good stuff. And Scott from Glasgow, Scotland. I used to work in a shop called Scott's. So Scott from Scotland works at Scott's, or used to work at Scott's. That's a tongue twister. There we go. And we have Louie joining in from RI, Rhode Island, I guess it is. I would assume. I'm not sure. Possibly. Taking a stab at it. Welcome. Glad to have you joining in, guys. Okay, we got a lot of people tuning in. All right, seeing a lot of people just popped onto the live stream there. I just want to kind of give you an overview of how this works again, because a lot of people are probably new to the video chat. I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, answering questions and topics of discussion that you would like to discuss related to fitness and nutrition, building muscle, losing fat, any specific challenges with your exercise or your nutrition, type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our chat today. And I just want to let you know, while people are typing in their questions there, I recently posted up a new video that if it's up on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, if you haven't seen it already, and it covers the truth about calorie counting and macro tracking, especially for those of you who use MyFitnessPal or any of those similar nutrition tracking softwares. This video is a must watch for anyone who is tracking calories, tracking macros and stuff like that, because it explains the reality behind that. And the honest truth of it is calorie tracking, macro counting, it's helpful, but it's far from perfect. And nobody is precise when it comes to counting those numbers, and it's not your fault. And I explained that in that video. So it's a good eye-opening video to watch, because that can help to explain why you may be counting calories, you may be tracking macros, you may be doing everything right. And a lot of times I see people reach out to me saying, hey, I'm eating a calorie deficit, but I'm not losing weight. How come? And that video will explain if you are in that type of situation. Or vice versa. If you're saying, hey, I'm eating a calorie surplus, but I'm not gaining weight. If you're trying to fill out your frame and gain lean muscle or lose body fat, it will explain, because the numbers are not as accurate as a lot of these, as the nutrition labels would make it out to be, and as a lot of the software makes it out to be. Like, they try to have it down to the precise number, right? Hey, you're eating 2,152 calories per day, and this food has exactly, 32 grams of protein and, 45 grams of carbohydrates and 9 grams of fat. It's not as precise as that. It's a ballpark estimate at best. Right? So I really go into a lot of detail and explain that in that video. So if you haven't already done so, it's the most recent upload over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, and it's certainly worth a watch. It's actually a full video presentation teaching session that I did for our Muscle After 40 Blueprint coaching students, and I just wanted to share it on YouTube as well, because I know it's going to help a lot of people, because it's a common issue for a lot of folks. All right, let's see who else we got joining. I think I've addressed everybody who's live joining in right now. That's good. All right, got a question here from Solid Jedo. I think I'm pronouncing that right. How often should someone in the beginner to intermediate stage start lifting heavier weights? How often should someone in the beginner intermediate phase start lifting heavier weights? Well, let's just break that down. How often should somebody lift weights? We'll answer it in that sense. I usually recommend for people who are starting off 3 workouts a week. Like, a lot of the times when guys come on board with our Muscle After 40 Blueprint program, that's what I usually start them off with, is 3 weight training workouts per week. And then on the off days from weight training, we usually do some form of cardiovascular exercise, whether that's getting outside for a walk, whether that's going to the gym and doing cardio machines there, or maybe have some sort of cardio equipment at home. If you do have like some home gym equipment, you can utilize that. But I like this, what I refer to as yin and yang style of training. So high intensity weight training alternated with low intensity cardio. And that allows you to get daily exercise. So you build the habit of daily exercise, reap the health and fitness and mental benefits of daily exercise, but you do so in a complementary fashion. So during those high intensity workouts, and when I say high intensity, that's all relative. I mean, for someone who's brand new, any weight training is high intensity weight training, because it's unique muscle stimulation that your body's unaccustomed to. But as you build up your strength, as you build up your work capacity and your stamina and all that, obviously it's going to progress. The weights will progress heavier and the intensity is going to progress heavier. But for now, just get started, right? Just show up, start going through the motions. So weight training one day and cardio the next. And during the weight training workouts, that's higher intensity exercise. Higher intensity meaning there's more stress on the joints, the tendons, the ligaments. You're load bearing, you're loading the body. You're placing stress and demands on the muscles, joints, tendons, and ligaments, and that's going to cause them to respond and grow bigger and stronger. On the cardio days, That's really good for building up your cardiovascular conditioning and your heart health and your endurance and your stamina. And it's also really good for burning body fat. So you have two complementary forms of exercise. And that's what I do personally. I do weight training one day, cardio the next. And, where the question is for someone in the beginner intermediate phase, that's a great way to go about it. And that would be a good program for even more advanced people, especially people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. As you get older, that's a great program to follow because it allows for adequate recovery while still allowing you to get the habit of daily exercise in there. For someone who's more advanced, you can probably start to step it up a bit. Once you've kind of maxed out and you're starting to hit a plateau with 3 weight training workouts a week, the next phase would be to bump it up to 4. Right. So like with the 3 days a week, we usually do it like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or every other day. It doesn't really matter what days of the week, but Monday, Wednesday, Friday is kind of the typical 3 day per week program that most people get prescribed because it's just a convenient 3 days, but it could be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. It could be, every other day, whatever. It doesn't really matter the specific days. Your muscles don't know what day of the week it is. They only know stress and stimulation and rest and recovery. So 3 days a week. And then what we usually do after the next the next progression beyond that would be to bump it up, maybe 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. And, prime example, say like Monday, Tuesday, rest Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, rest Saturday, Sunday, and start again. That's kind of like the next graduate progression from there. And for most people, even advanced lifters, 4 days a week is kind of like that sweet spot. You could push it to 5 days or beyond. But once you start getting into 5 or 6 days per week, then you're kind of like walking that tightrope of, you might maximize some more muscle stimulation, but it's a lot harder to recover from it. And personally, when I look back over my own fitness journey, especially in my competitive bodybuilding days and when I made my best gains, it was usually working out 3 to 4 days a week, somewhere in that range. And I found when I pushed it beyond that, it might have helped in the terms of calorie expenditure and fat loss, but it didn't help in terms of building muscle and increasing strength. I found I made my best size and strength gains working out 3 to 4 days a week. That was kind of like the sweet spot. Once you start going beyond that into 5 and 6 days a week, or even trying to work out every single day, what ends up happening is very often you're not allowing your body enough time to rest, recover, and grow between those workouts. And while it's great from a calorie expenditure point of view, it's not great from a hypertrophy and a strength building point of view. And that's why I usually recommend alternating the weight training one day and cardio the next, because I find that allows the best of both worlds of daily exercise plus adequate recovery. So hopefully that helps to clarify that question. And I see another follow-up question from Mr. Solid, or is he too? I think it was, here it is. I want to follow up, seeing we're on that same thing. It says, thanks. For cardio, I go for an hour walk. I mostly walk every day, though. Could that prevent gains? No, walking is not going to hinder your muscle gains. Walking is a great exercise. It's such an underrated exercise, and it's one that I would highly recommend because it allows you to stay active, and it allows you to burn a lot of fat and calories, but it's not stressful. Like, you don't end a walk feeling beat up or physically or mentally exhausted. Like, you don't end a walk and like you're bent over gasping for air and like, oh my God, my lungs are burning and my legs are fried, lactic acid buildup. No, you go for a walk and you feel good afterwards, right? It's exercise, but it's active recovery type of exercise. Now it's still a fantastic fat burner. And for me, like when I'd be getting ready for bodybuilding competitions, I would personally walk for an hour a day minimum. That would be my baseline minimum. I wanted to hit an hour of walking per day. And that was my number one form of cardio for fat loss, was walking, for that very reason, that you can do it, and you can do it daily without breaking your body down, without causing yourself to overtrain and burn out. Whereas if you started doing high intensity interval training, which, there's a lot of fitness gurus out there preaching, doing the HIIT cardio and high intensity and getting your heart rate elevated and, push. And don't get me wrong, that does have its place and there's benefits to that, but that creates a lot of stress on the body. You can't go blasting out high intensity cardio day after day after day without a break in between. Whereas walking, you can do it day after day, because it's such a gentle form of exercise, and it's an active recovery form of exercise. It's not breaking you down. It's actually helping to build you up while burning fat and calories in the process. So that's why I'm such a huge advocate of walking for fat loss. And if we could put the power of a 1 hour walk into a pill, it would be the most prescribed pill in the world, because the health benefits, the mental benefits, the physical benefits, like there's so many benefits of an hour walk. Like if you could put that in a pill and prescribe it, like you would be a multi-billionaire, because everybody on the planet would be taking that pill. It's such a powerful thing to do. So I'm a huge advocate of it, and I still, on a regular basis, like to incorporate walking as a regular into my routine. And that's something you can do on a daily basis. Absolutely. It's not going to hinder your gains whatsoever. All right, moving back now. Where else were we to? I'll go back to that question. What was I to? Okay, Neil's got a question. Neil's a regular to our video chats. Nice to have you joining us again. It says, more than a decade of fitness and health enthusiast, because I always monitor my calories in and out. Nowadays, I see food as a number with macros. All right. I guess he's responding to that, when I was talking about that video that I made. Food, I mean, I understand where people come from. They look at food as fuel, and food is, they don't see it as food. They see it as, okay, this is protein, this is carbs, this is fats, this is whatever, blah, blah, blah. And there's a side to that for sure, but food is so much more than that. And within our Muscle After 40 program, we try and humanize health, fitness, and nutrition and see it for what it really is, because food is not just fuel. Food is part of our culture. It's part of our social life. It's a part of everything. Food is so much more than just fuel. And if you try to ignore that, you're ignoring a lot of the pleasures of life. Like, food is something to be enjoyed, and it should be enjoyed. Like the sitting down to a good meal with friends and family and enjoying that meal, like that is one of the best pleasures in life. And to try and ignore that because you're saying, no, I just got to get my calories and my macros and eat my boiled chicken and broccoli out of Tupperware containers every 2 hours. Like, I mean, there's not much pleasure in that. Granted, it can work from a body composition point of view, but you're missing out on a lot of other more substantial elements of life, I think. So I like to have this holistic approach, this sustainable approach where we humanize fitness and nutrition, where, yeah, you're still getting your protein and your calories and your carbs and your macros and whatever that you want to get from a fuel point of view, but you're doing so in a way that you enjoy, and you can get the eating satisfaction and the pleasure of eating good food with good family and good friends in the process. So we try to have that humanized approach versus this, put the blinders on and just thinking calories and macros approach. Right? I mean, I did the calories and macros approach when I was competing in bodybuilding, and yeah, it works. Don't get me wrong. You can get in amazing shape, but it's not always an enjoyable process. And very often, if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to stick to it long term. So if you can't stick to it long term, like the idea, I'm going to suffer it out on a cutting diet. I mean, yeah, okay, you can suffer it out for the short term and probably get short term results, but are you going to suffer it out for the rest of your life and deny yourself the pleasure of good food and good conversation and good company and all that surrounds, a proper meal? No. I mean, nobody wants to deny themselves that. So we want to find the way to bridge that gap, right? Have that hybrid of meeting your nutritional needs while still enjoying the process. And that's what we really focus on within the Muscle After 40 blueprint. And we make it a sustainable lifestyle approach versus just I'm going on a cutting diet approach. All right, so we got Richard joining in. Glad to have you join, Richard. And he's a regular over on our Muscle After 40 blueprint program as well. We have John joining in. Nice to see you, John. I already covered that question from Mr. Solid. Let's see, where else to? Scott's got a question. It says, are you aware of the late Doug Brignole and his Brig 20 workout system? All isolation exercises, basically no compound moves. If you've heard of his program, what are your thoughts? I have heard of it before, but I've never really followed it. I've heard it in conversation with talking to some of my coaching students and some of my followers online, but I've never met Doug myself. I've never really dove into his content or his program. So I really don't have any feedback or you know more about it than I do, put it that way. So I'm not really going to share much about it. But just based on what you shared there, isolation exercises and no compounds, I'm sure there's more to it than that alone, obviously. But, when it comes to exercise programs, I'll just say this, and it doesn't necessarily apply to this Brig 20 program, but it kind of applies to all programs. Everything works to some degree, and there's a time and a place for virtually every program that's out there. But you have to look at it from a bigger picture perspective. Who is the program geared for? Like, who's the target audience? And what are their desired goals? Like, if I was to design a program for a 20-something-year-old guy who wants to bulk up and get as big and strong as possible to either compete in powerlifting or to compete in bodybuilding or something like that, the program that I would prescribe for someone in that situation would be totally different than the program I prescribe for a 50-year-old office worker who wants to lose the gut, lose the dad bod, lower his cholesterol, get off blood pressure medication, and improve his health and fitness. Like, two totally different scenarios, two totally different programs, two totally different nutrition protocols, everything else. It's not that one is right or wrong, good or bad, or anything like that. It's just different, right? So, I mean, that applies here. And again, I'm sure with that system, he had a target demographic in mind that he was shooting for, and there was probably a purpose and a reason for what he prescribed. But would it work for everybody? Of course not, because they're just like saying, everybody should do the same thing. Of course not. I mean, it depends on the situation and the circumstances and the individual. But everything works, but the key is nothing works forever. And of course, you have to look at it from who is it geared for. All right, Neil's joining in. Another question there. What are your thoughts on intra-workout drinks? I see people in the gym drinking supplements within their workout. When I'm crunch on time, I sip my hot turmeric tea within my workout as well. Intra-workout drinks. It depends on what it is, but there is a time and a place for intra-workout nutrition. And I'm a bigger fan of pre-workout and intra-workout nutrition than I am of post-workout nutrition, because it depends on the type of workout. Kind of piggybacking off the question I mentioned, or the answer I gave about the workout before. It depends on the individual, depends on the training goals and the circumstances and the scenario. Intra-workout nutrition also depends. If someone's doing a really short workout, an hour or less is what I consider short, you really don't need much in the way of intra-workout nutrition other than hydration, because you will have enough glycogen stored within your muscle cells and your liver to fuel that workout. But if you're getting into a longer workout or a more strenuous workout where you're burning through your glycogen stores, then you want to replenish that. And a lot of people these days will supplement with electrolytes. They'll supplement with amino acids. And if you're doing longer workouts, a lot of times we'll supplement with some sort of carbohydrate supplement as well. So, for example, like when I go for long bike rides, and I'm actually this weekend, I have a big, massive bike ride planned. I'm going to be doing a large group ride where we're going to be covering over 200 miles on Saturday and Sunday. So it's over 100 miles Saturday, and then we complete the loop and ride back on Sunday. So we're spending the night halfway, at a hotel, and that's a massive ride. Like, that's, oh my gosh, over the course of the day. Obviously there's going to be stops and breaks times in between, but like, that's going to be 6 or 7 hours of moving time on the bike. So like literally like say a 6+ hour workout. In order to sustain energy for 6+ hours of cycling, I'm going to be relying on intra-workout nutrition. So I'm going to have in my water bottles, there's going to be carbohydrate powder, there's going to be amino acids, there's going to be electrolytes, right? I'm going to be sipping that throughout the ride. I mean, on the breaks, I'll be having nutrition throughout the ride. So the energy bars, like I love to have Cliff bars, and I'll have energy gels, like carbohydrates to help keep my glycogen levels topped up, because you need to fuel your exercise based on your energy demands. Because if you don't, what ends up happening is you can burn through your glycogen stores and literally bonk. And what that means is once you deplete your glycogen, your body is literally feels like it's running on empty. It's almost like when you deplete the gas tank in your car, right? You could be driving along, hey, the car's working great, and all of a sudden, once you hit empty, it's like sput, and like nothing. Your energy is the same way. Like if you have glycogen in your system and your blood sugar levels are adequate, you could be chugging along, feeling great. But as soon as your blood sugar goes low and you run out of glycogen, it's like boom, it's like hitting the wall, right? You're running on empty. And that's not a nice feeling. So in order to keep your strength and energy up, intra-workout nutrition is critical for longer duration workouts. So that applies with gym workouts as well as cardio workouts or whatever. More so in the lines of cardio, because when you're getting into endurance cardio, that's when it can stretch into multiple hour sessions. When it comes to weight training, most people have their weight training done within 2 hours max, right? So it's not as big of a deal with weight training because the workouts tend to be shorter. But with all in endurance cardio, where they can stretch into hours, intra-workout nutrition is huge. But the benefits of it, I mean, not only does it help to fuel the workouts, but it also helps to provide fast absorbing nutrients to help aid with the recovery process after. Because a lot of times people wait until the workout is done before they start refueling and putting the nutrients back in. But why not put it in before and during the workout? So not only can you utilize those fast absorbing nutrients while you're exercising, but then they're also available in your system, so the recovery process can even start sooner. So I'm a big advocate of amino acids during my workouts, because I want to be sipping those while I put amino acid powder in my water bottle and sip it during the workout. That way, those amino acids are in your system being utilized while you're working out, and they're also there to enhance the post-workout recovery as well. So you can actually start the recovery process earlier versus waiting until you're finished to start it. So that's something that I do myself. And the benefits of amino acids, like a lot of people say, well, if I'm eating, enough protein, what's the point of taking amino acids? The benefits is the rapid absorption. Like if you eat protein, like chicken or fish or eggs or meat or dairy or whatever, it takes several hours for that to be broken down, digested, and utilized into the available amino acids that your body can actually use. Like it's several hours of digestion. Whereas if you take an amino acid supplement, within 20 minutes of consuming it, that can be utilized by your muscles. It's so rapidly absorbed. So people who drink like amino acids during their workouts, those amino acids are literally getting used during the workout itself, and then they're in the bloodstream and available to be used for recovery right away afterwards. So there's not this big long delay in digestion and absorption. So that's the benefits of supplementation and the intra-workout nutrition. So yeah, it's something you can certainly do. I'm a big advocate of it. Like when I go to the gym, I always have electrolytes and amino acids. And then when I'm doing longer workouts, 2 hours plus, I'll also put carbohydrate powder in there as well to help keep my glycogen stores stocked up and to replenish the glycogen as I'm burning it through my workouts. So yeah, there's certainly a big time and a place for it. I think I posted up some videos on YouTube talking about let me just do a quick search for it. Seeing we're on the topic and I've been rambling on about it, I'll just do a search for that. I did this a while back because one of my followers, I believe it was Leo, was asking me to talk about endurance nutrition. Let me see. If I can't find it really quick here, I'll post it in the description afterwards. Yeah, but if you just do a search for like Lee Hayward endurance nutrition, you should see that. It should come up in the YouTube search. But it was a video that I went into more detail talking about this. All right, where else are we? Let's see. That was Neil's question about intra-workout drinks. We got there. Thanks. Haha. Yeah, I even took a week off from walking to see any difference. Heard from Dr. Berg here on YouTube that walking even activates the mitochondria to get smarter, stronger, and healthier. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking a break from anything, but walking is one of those exercises you can do regularly, as we mentioned before. It's such a natural and healthy exercise. I mean, assuming that you're fit and able to walk, I would recommend it for everybody. Louis got another question. Says, quick question. Do you believe in taking a deload week after a certain number of workouts? If so, how often? No, I'm not a believer in taking a deload week after X number of workouts because it depends on your situation, your circumstances, and there's so many variables. Now, do I believe in taking deload phases when needed? Absolutely. And I'm just going to explain that. I'm going to humanize it. All right. In the ideal world, if we were following a structured program and everything went according to plan, like let's just say you're pushing, you're spot on consistent with your workouts, you're spot on consistent with your nutrition and your sleep and your lifestyle habits and everything, and you're like a robot, like a machine, boom, 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 and you push up and you build up to a peak in intensity and a peak in your performance, and once you hit that peak, then you start to plateau. That's when you want to deload. Right, that's because eventually this is the way workouts happen. So you're training and you're making progress, and then eventually you start to plateau. And if you keep pushing, you're eventually start going to backtrack, meaning that you're not even going to be able to continue to perform at the previous level that you did. So, prime example, this is a common one that a lot of guys will probably be able to relate to. They say, hey, I was benching 200 pounds for 10 reps 2 weeks ago. Now I can't even get 200 pounds for 5 reps. What the hell's wrong? And they're freaking out, right? Because everyone's, the bench press is the ego exercise, right? That's the yardstick by which you measure everything by. What happens is you just push beyond your recovery abilities. Like you've hit your peak and now you're starting to plateau and even backtrack because you've gone beyond what your body can recover from. In a situation like that, a deload makes perfect sense because you want to let your body rest, recover, and grow and absorb the training stimulation that you've been providing it and to refresh and recharge your battery so that you're ready to push it again for another intense training phase. That's what happens in the perfect world. But most people are far from freaking perfect because we have so much stuff coming at us, whether it's responsibilities at work, responsibilities with your family, travel, sickness, whatever. There's stuff happening all the time. Very few people are consistent with their workouts day in, day out, week in, week out, never missing a session. Most people are like on and off again. Like, I worked out for a few days this week and I ended up missing a few days and I'll try to get back at it again. And, same thing with the nutrition. Like 1 week, I had a good week of eating and I screwed up and cheated on my diet. And then I got to get back on track again. Diet starts again on Monday. Most people are so haphazard and all over the place that having a planned deload makes no sense because they're not structured enough to even justify it. When they're screwing up and missing workouts, that's their deload, right? But if you are consistent enough to actually place enough, stress on the body that it gets to the point where you purposely are like overreaching, borderline overtraining, that's when having a deload can certainly help. And I don't like planning it in advance. I like to listen to your body and adjust it accordingly because sometimes a deload may only be taking a few extra days of rest or maybe a few easy workouts, kind of like some active recovery workouts, or it may be a full-on phase where you say, I'm going to take a full week and do active recovery, just let my body rest and recover. So it really depends on the situation, but I'm not a believer in planning it in advance. I purposely would like to be in the moment, listen to your body, and when you feel you need that rest, take the rest. If you don't need the rest, don't take it. Like if you're on an upward trend and your workouts, you're making progress, you're seeing gains, you're feeling good, your recovery's there, and it's just like ride that wave of momentum. Like don't stop progress in its track because like, oh, I've been working out for the past 3 weeks. I should take a deload. Like if you've been working out 3 weeks and you're making progress and it's still making progress, keep it going. Like, ride that wave of momentum for what it's worth. Once you start to plateau and once your progress starts to go stale, then you can factor in a deload or look into changing your training appropriately. But don't purposely put the brakes on productive training because you think, oh, it's time to deload, or because Joe Blow, fitness coach on YouTube, says you got to take a deload every 3 weeks or whatever. No. If you're 3 weeks into a program and you're still making progress, then keep going. Like, don't shortchange it, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Keep that momentum going. All right. Neil's saying, thanks, Lee. Loved your current uploads. Have a great weekend. Will do. Glad you enjoy the videos. And that's something I'm really going to try to make the push over the summer now to be more consistent with more videos. And in fact, I have a new workout video that I shot this week. I have the video footage ready to be edited, so that'll be posted up on the YouTube channel next week. But I want to get into making more videos, because I'll be honest, and I mentioned this in one of my previous videos that I did, I've been getting a bit slack with making new videos, and for a couple reasons. I mean, one, I've already got a lot of videos. Like, there's over 1,000 videos on the channel, so I was thinking, like, what's the point of making more videos? Like, I've already covered a lot of stuff here. But another reason was, especially when it comes to training videos, like, I'm getting older. I'm not hitting the same numbers that I used to do when I was younger, right? Like, I'm not at my personal peak when it comes to strength and muscle mass and all that. Like, I've kind of changed priorities. Like, I'm still weight training and focusing on health and longevity from that point of view, but I'm not pushing the envelope. Like, I'm not powerlifting. I'm not bodybuilding. I'm focusing on being a healthy and fit muscle after 40 role model for my son. That's my goal now. And as far as my other fitness passion, if you will, I've really gotten more serious into cycling, and I do like local cycling events. I do some local road racing and stuff like that. So that's something that I've been doing a lot of. And that, from a bodybuilding perspective, is not as impressive as, going in there and benching 300 pounds or whatever. Like, I've been there, done that when it comes to, hitting the personal bests in terms of strength, but now I'm hitting personal bests in other areas, personal bests in terms of my fitness and cardiovascular endurance and stamina, which I know from a bodybuilding musclehead opinion is not as impressive, but it's more impressive for me at this stage of the game, and it's more practical. So I'm going to focus on making videos geared towards what I'm currently doing now and not getting hung up on what I used to do in the past. So I know some people may not like that, because I had some people reach out to me and say, like, hey, I miss the old videos, when you're big and strong and powerlifting and all that and competing in bodybuilding. When are we going to see the old Lee back? Well, the old Lee's not coming back. I'm not getting any younger, right? I'm going to focus on the new Lee and the new direction that I'm taking things in. So I'm going to be sharing more videos geared towards that. So I know that's going to piss some people off, but at the same time, it's also going to inspire a lot of other people, because as people get older, you have to respect your body more, and you can't always keep pounding it with heavy weights the same as you did when you were in your 20s, when you're in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. I've learned that the hard way through multiple injuries. And ironically, a lot of people I talk to, I was actually having a conversation with a gentleman today. He's scheduled in for a strategy session coaching call with me. And that's a big thing. Like, he's getting older now, and the biggest problem is injuries. Like, guys, they're trying to lift like they did when they were in their 20s. Guys in their 40s and 50s and beyond, still thinking that they got to go in there and they got to push it high intensity, heavy duty, repping out to failure, 4 reps and all that kind of shit. I mean, yeah, there's a time and a place for that, but as you get older, your body can't handle that kind of intensity before something gives. It's not going to handle it for long. So you have to respect your body more the older you get. And that's why I've kind of modified my training. And that's what we really focus on within the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program, is this sustainable longevity approach, and not this extreme, go big or go home approach. Because the problem with the go big or go home, all or nothing, is you rarely get it all, and you more often than not end up with nothing. And that's what often happens with a lot of people. So I'd rather be good enough, and good enough consistently over the long term, and, enjoy the process and be healthy and fit into my 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. That's my goal, versus being riddled with injuries and not being able to work out at all, and then living in the, oh, well, back in the day I used to do this, and back in the day I used to do that, but now I can't even get out of my freaking chair because I'm so beat up and out of shape. Right? I don't want to be in that situation. I'd rather be healthy and fit and mobile into the second half of life. And that's what the Muscle After 40 Blueprint is all about. So I'm going to be sharing more of that moving forward. But again, thanks, Neil, for your comment, and glad you do enjoy the current uploads that I've been putting out there. And Solid agrees. Good stuff. Appreciate it. Dario's got a question. What are your thoughts on playing sports for cardio? It really depends on the type of sports, but that is a great, not only for cardio, but for overall fitness. And I love it when I see guys take up performance activities other than just going to the gym, lifting weights and doing cardio. Like, that can get pretty monotonous after a while. And if that's all you're focusing on is going to the gym, lifting weights, doing cardio, and trying to see body composition changes, I mean, it's motivating for some people, but it can get a bit monotonous for others. So when you can add in a performance side of things, whether that's whatever sport that happens to be, like I know some guys like to play recreational hockey, or like to play recreational basketball, or whatever. I mean, if you have some sort of sport, that gives new enthusiasm and new motivation to your training, because now not only are you going to the gym to just try and lose the gut and improve your health and fitness and lower your cholesterol and, you know, all that stuff that you should do, but now you've got extra motivation saying, you know what, hey, by working out consistently, now that's going to help me with the sport, and I'm going to be able to kick those guys' asses on the field, or whatever, or I'm going to be able to keep up with the more advanced guys or the younger guys or whatever. Like, that gives you more motivation. And that's something that I've done now when I've transitioned into cycling and competitive cycling, because by being consistent with my workouts and consistent with my nutrition and all the healthy lifestyle habits, that allows me to keep up with some of the younger guys on these big rides that I do. And that's motivating for me. So having a performance goal in there will really help to spur on new motivation for your training and just following through with this whole lifestyle approach, versus just doing it because you should. Like, I mean, we all know what we should do, but we rarely do it. We do what we want to do. And if you have some sports, whatever those sports are, that's going to really help to spur on your motivation. And of course, playing the sport in and of itself is great exercise, you know, depending on what type of sport it is. But I would definitely encourage you to partake in sports and the physical performance side of things, from the motivation that it gives you, the motivation to want to be more consistent with the workouts, consistent with your eating and everything else, because that the more motivation you can stack onto it, like not only doing it because you should do it, but doing it because you want to do it and having that competitive drive in there, that's really going to spur you on to a new level. And once you put a competitive drive into something, that takes things to the next level. Like, think of someone who's working out because their doctor says you got high blood pressure, you got high cholesterol, and you need to lose some weight. Like, the motivation for that is kind of like, meh, I know I should do it, but I don't want to do it. And that's why you see so many people who are on and off again, and everyone's saying, yeah, I'm going to get back to the gym one of these days, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But someone who's competing, their motivation is sky high. Like, I know people who've competed, whether it's competing in a bodybuilding competition or competing in recreational sports or whatever, like, they got something that they're working for, because there's a bit of ego on the line, right? There's that competitive drive and of course the camaraderie of the people you're playing with. I mean, it just helps to take things to a higher level. It's so much more motivating to get out there and play sports, or to compete, or to do something for that sake, versus doing it because it's good for you, right? So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge advocate of that, including sports and the competitive side into your fitness routine. Got Ray joining in. Welcome, Ray. Glad to have you joining our video chat today. We have J.E. joining in. It says, is there any benefits of pausing at the bottom of a squat? You can do it. I mean, it certainly would provide more control over the exercise. Like, sometimes I do it with my lighter warm-up weights to kind of almost like a stretch. Like, I'll go into a full squat and actually hold that position for a second, just kind of like stretch out the hips and the hamstrings and the quads and all the muscles involved. Like I'll sometimes do it. But when I'm doing heavy squats, I rarely will pause. I usually keep it a fluid motion, like squat down and up in a non-stop motion. But, you know, you can experiment with it if you want. Like if you can pause a squat then and still have the power to explode out of the bottom position, there's a lot more muscle activation there versus the rebounding, right? Now, both are beneficial, don't get me wrong, but if you can control it to the point where you can pause it and then start it from the bottom again, that takes a higher level of strength and muscle control. Same with like a bench press. Like if you can bring the bar down and pause it at your chest and then still press it up, there's a lot more muscle control involved there. You know, so yeah, there is benefits to it, but you know, you don't need to stress out over it. You know, like there's benefits to just squatting in general, right? Whether you're doing a fluid motion squat, just up and down, or you're pausing it. I really don't overthink it myself, right? I just squat. Louis saying, thanks for answering my question. Really appreciate it. You're welcome. Glad to help. Mick saying, what's your morning routine around eating? I struggle or eat first thing in the morning, but I feel I need it. I can relate to that because I used to be not a big morning eater, and I kind of fell into the intermittent fasting mindset, and I did that for years. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there's pros and cons to that as well. I mean, I did it for a while and did see some results from it, but now I like to front load my calories. So like I'm a big advocate of eating earlier in the day, because I find that when I get food in me early in the day, it helps to control my blood sugar, helps to control my appetite, so then I can eat like a normal person throughout the day and then into the evening. Whereas if I don't eat early in the day, you know, and I keep myself busy with work and chores and responsibilities and whatever, yeah, okay, I can get away with eating hardly anything throughout the day. But then when I do start eating in the evening, I find my blood sugar levels are low, and then it's like opening up the floodgates, and then it's hard to control your appetite. And I end up overeating and eating in excess then in the evenings. And that was the problem with me, especially when I was intermittent fasting. Yeah, I'd fast all day long and then pig out all evening long. So I canceled out the benefits. So what I do now is I like to have more consistent nutrition throughout the day. And I find that works better for me. So for me, I always start off with a breakfast. I mean, like it could be high protein oatmeal. It could be like an egg and spinach omelet on a wrap, or sometimes I have an egg and spinach omelet with some whole grain toast along with it. Usually have some fruit, something along those lines. Like I'll change it up. I have a few different go-to staples. Sometimes it might be just a blender smoothie. Like I'll mix up some protein powder and frozen berries and some fruit into a blender smoothie and have that. So, but I always try to focus on good quality protein, good quality carbohydrates, and usually fruit for breakfast. I mean, sometimes it will have some vegetables. If it's like an omelet, I'll put some spinach and chopped up mushrooms and onions and veggies in with the omelet. But more often than not, breakfast is protein, carbs, and fruit. And then my later meals throughout the day is usually protein and veggies and carbohydrates. That's what I usually focus on. But I've gotten into the habit of having a breakfast every morning. Good serving of protein, good serving of carbs, and I crave it now. So like in the past, I very often wake up and like, I don't feel hungry. And then I just, grab a cup of coffee and then just jump in and start my day. Now I wake up in the morning like, I'm hungry. I got to eat. And I get that meal in me. And then that gives me the energy to run on and helps to stabilize my energy throughout the day and stabilize my blood sugar. And I find from a muscle building point of view, and an athletic performance point of view, it's much better to have fuel in your system versus trying to run on empty. And this is something I've recommended to a lot of our Muscle After 40 coaching students. And I've seen guys who've just incorporated a better morning routine when it comes to their eating, and better strength gains, better muscle gains, better performance all around, especially from a body composition point of view, like building the muscle and improving their strength and energy. Once you get into that routine of eating early in the day versus trying to just run on empty, you'll feel much better and have more strength and energy. And plus, it's more anabolic because you're providing nutrients in your body to break the fast. I mean, that's why we call it break fast. We want to break that fast and get some nutrients into your system so that your body can actually utilize those nutrients versus continuing to run on empty all day long and just depleting your body and getting into a catabolic state. So what I would recommend if you're struggling, start off with something simple. I mean, even if it's like a protein shake and a piece of fruit, something very light, but just try to get some protein and try to get some fruit or some carbohydrates in you early in the day. Right? That's important. And another thing I should mention as well, the very first thing that I consume before anything goes in my mouth, like food or coffee or anything, water. So when I wake up in the morning and I go to the bathroom, do my pee, and wake up, and I go into the kitchen, the first thing I do is I go and I drink a big glass of water. So I'm going to rehydrate my body after all night, because that's my first morning routine is to rehydrate. And once I have that water in me, then I'll start cooking breakfast and getting everything together, and then have my breakfast afterwards. But first thing, water, rehydrate. And that's a good habit to get into, because overnight you lose a lot of fluid, like through your breathing and everything else. You lose a lot of water. So most of us wake up dehydrated. We want to counter that with a big glass of water first thing in the morning to rehydrate your body, because a hydrated cell is a healthy cell. So you want to get that in you and then focus on the nutrition afterwards. But as far as eating, start small. Like, again, a protein shake and a piece of fruit would be a great way to start. Right? Don't try and force feed yourself. Right? Build it up slowly and gradually, and you'll find the more you do it, the more you're going to get comfortable with it, and then you're going to start to actually crave it. As you turn on your body and you adjust your metabolism, it's actually going to start to get to the point where you're going to wake up in the morning and you're like, man, I'm craving breakfast. I'm craving a good, healthy breakfast to start the day. And that's where I'm at now at this stage of the game. All right, Scott saying, that's the videos we want to see. The new Lee with more realistic videos and showing us how to train now. Keep the videos coming. Appreciate that, Scott. Thanks for sharing it. And I'm glad that I'm getting this kind of feedback, because this really helps to reinforce the direction that I want to take things. Right? Like, I do get the emails from the young guys saying, oh, we would just want to see, 1 rep max bench presses and blah, blah, blah. And, go big or go home. And I'm like, man, I haven't done a 1 rep max bench press and I can't remember when. It's been over a decade since I've done a 1 rep max bench press. And I have no intentions of going back there. Like, to me, a 1 rep max bench press is a pec tear waiting to happen, or a blown out rotator cuff waiting to happen. Like, the risk is sky high. The benefits is ridiculously low. So you ain't going to be seeing 1 rep maxes from me anytime soon. There's enough people out on YouTube pumping up, those type of videos. I want to show a realistic, sustainable, healthy approach for guys in their 40s and beyond, because that's where I am. I'm in my 40s and I hope to live well beyond. And I want to share that in my videos and my content moving forward. We have Marino joining in from Slava, Ukraine. Okay, interesting. We have RC Cosplay joining in, saying, hello all, I'm still at work, but would not miss Lee for anything. Hope you're not telling your boss this, right? Today is my last day at work, as I'm taking the summer off and focusing on hobbies and exercise. That's awesome. What are you? You must be a school teacher or something. I don't know. Or the reason I'm saying that is because today is the first official day of summer for Harvey. Like, school finished yesterday, so he is out for summer vacation. All right, so yeah, our summer has started today, or at least it has for him. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. All right, I respect that. Taking some time off to focus on your hobbies and exercise. I love that. Nice. We have Jeremy joining in. Does higher intensity really help a lot for fat loss? Having problems with belly fat. I guess you mean like higher intensity workouts, higher intensity cardio. I'm going to address that. Higher intensity with weight training is going to stimulate more muscle growth. So high intensity weight training is a muscle building stimulus. High intensity cardio is a cardiovascular and endurance stimulus, building up your lactate threshold and increasing your VO2 max and all that, it does help with fat loss. Like you will burn fat through weight training, you will burn fat through cardio and everything else. But when you're pushing the intensity, there's more glycogen being burned than body fat. And the downside of it, even though it's a big calorie burner, it's also a big drain on your system. And the problem with high intensity is a lot of times we can't do it long enough or frequently enough to really maximize fat burning. So that's why I'm a huge advocate of low intensity cardio for fat loss. So in my case, I mentioned this earlier in the chat, a great place to start, like weight training one day, cardio the next. So alternate high intensity weight training with low intensity cardio. And then if you really want to push the envelope for fat loss, that is, envelope for fat loss, daily cardio. But the daily cardio would be something like going for a daily walk or some daily low intensity cardio, because you can do daily low intensity cardio. Like you can go for a walk every day and still recover from it, still feel good, and not burn yourself out or risk injury and overtraining and all that. Whereas if you're doing high intensity intervals or sprints or whatever, you can't do that every day. You're going to overtrain, you're going to risk injury, you're going to risk burnout, because that is so intense, the body just can't recover from it and bounce back day after day. High intensity cardio is something that, like, you can only do it a couple times a week at most if you're truly doing high intensity cardio, because you need that the rest of the time to recover and in order to be able to perform at the high intensity needed. But low intensity cardio, that's something that can be done literally on a daily basis. So that's why I'm a huge advocate of low intensity cardio for fat burning, because it's something you can do so consistently and do it for a longer duration, thus reap better benefits. And then, of course, when you're doing cardio at a lower intensity, the primary fuel source is body fat as well. So in my situation, like when I be getting ready for bodybuilding shows or doing an aggressive fat loss phase, a minimum of an hour of walking per day. That would be one of my non-negotiables. I would get in a minimum of an hour of walking. Now, it doesn't mean that it was all done in a single walk. I mean, if I was pressed for time, I might break that up, like 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes on lunch break, and then 20 minutes in the evening. Sometimes I'd do it that way to get my hour total. But I always had a benchmark where I'm going to do a minimum of an hour of walking a day. And sometimes it would be all in one go, right? If I had the time to schedule that in, I would do it. But other times it would be broken up throughout the day. And, so that's what I would recommend. If you're looking to really push the envelope for fat loss and you're struggling with it, an hour of low intensity cardio, i.e. walking, would be a great place to start, right? Do that for the next month, and I bet you would notice some significant improvements. All right, let's see what else we got there. How are we doing for time? We're almost at the hour mark. So once we cross over the hour mark, I'm going to clue this up because my wife is out there preparing a lovely, healthy dinner for us. And I don't want to keep her waiting. Thomas has got a question. So some good advice, Lee. Tuning in from Dublin, Ireland. Welcome. Glad to have you joining in. They say age is just a number, but the older you get, the wiser you become with your weight training. I know where you're coming from. I'm in my 40s too. God, I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing. And I mean, I know they say age is only a number, and of course, yeah, it's of course it's a number, but there's truth to it. I mean, you're in your 40s, you don't feel the same as you did in your 20s. I don't care. And then when you get into your 50s and 60s or whatever, you're not going to feel the same as you did when you're in your 40s, right? I mean, this is life, right? We get older, we don't get younger, but we can, through proper health and fitness and lifestyle choices and all that stuff, we can maximize the quality of our years and not only live longer, but enjoy life longer. Because the way the healthcare system is now, this is kind of a little, I call it a rant, but my friend Paul Miller likes to say they're passionate observations. So this is my passionate observation of the healthcare system. It's not healthcare, it's sick care is what it is. And we're not extending life, we're delaying death. Because most people who are in their senior years, they're not truly living life, right? They're they're surviving, they're alive, right? They can hobble along with their wheelchairs and walkers or whatever, but they're not actually living life to the fullest. Whereas I would much rather be able to be physically active into my later years. And I'll give you a prime example. Like last year, I did a bicycle tour riding up the northern peninsula of Newfoundland. It was a big supported tour. There was 35 cyclists from all across North America as part of this tour. And one of the guys who did it, it was a 10-day tour, right? Over the course of 10 days, we covered, about 800 kilometers. And one of the guys, the oldest guy on the tour, was 80 years old. 80 years old, did a 10-day bicycle tour, covered over 800 kilometers in 10 days. And he held his own. He was not the slowest guy on the tour. 80 years old. And I'm like, man, that is an inspiration. Like, I would love to be like that at 80 years old, not sitting in a nursing home, hobbling along with a walker and, living life like that at 80 years old, which is unfortunately where a lot of people are. So through health and fitness and proper lifestyle choices, we can add life to our years. Even if he didn't live much older than 80, the fact that he was able to be physically active into his 80s is freaking respectable. Now, chances are, were he so active and healthy at 80, unless something seriously wrong happens in the next little while, he's probably going to live to be a ripe old age, I'm sure, into his 90s and beyond. But that's inspiring. That's what I strive for, is to be able to live life to the fullest and remain healthy and active and mobile into your later years. Right? That's what this is all about. So, yeah, again, appreciate you for sharing that, Thomas. And age, it's more than just a number, but we certainly want to maximize the quality of our life as that number grows, for sure. RC saying, it's been a year since I asked Lee about home gym. Lee mentioned a pull-down machine, a rack, half rack, bench, various weights. I got those, and one for the rare delts. No more gym membership. Oh, so you got yourself a good home gym setup. And you know what? I respect that for sure. And I've got what I would consider a decent home gym setup as well. Like, I've got a power rack and cable pulleys and free weights and, some cardio equipment and all that. And I certainly take advantage of it, but I still like to use a public gym as well. And the way I look at it, the best investment you're going to make is in your own health and fitness. So, I have no problem investing into a home gym. I have no problem investing into a gym membership. And having both is like stacking the deck in your favor, right? It's cheating in a good way, right? Because I can go to the gym and I can take advantage of all the equipment there and the atmosphere and the camaraderie and just the enjoyment of going to the gym, because I enjoy it. I enjoy going to the gym, something I really look forward to. But at the same time, if I'm busy or I can't make it to the gym, or you've got, it's winter time and there's a snowstorm or something like that, or heaven forbid we go through another pandemic lockdown where everything's closed up again, at least I still have a home gym that I can rely on as well. So I like having both options, and I take advantage of both. So I will work out at home and take advantage of that. I will go to the gym and take advantage of that. And again, it's like stacking the deck in your favor. So, there's no excuses, right? If I'm extra busy and I don't have time to make it to the gym for a proper workout, if you will, hey, I can do a short workout at home with my home gym equipment and still get it done, still make progress, right? Still keep that habit of daily exercise alive. Or if I have the time and I want to get out there and enjoy it, then I can go to the gym and do that as well. So, it's great that you do have a good home gym, and hey, by all means, take advantage of it and use it. But I wouldn't say no more gym membership, or at least not for me, right? I still like to use the gym membership personally. But with that being said, I know a lot of my coaching students who've worked out from home and have made amazing progress working out from home, and they enjoy it. So it's really what works the best for you, and just sharing what works the best for me happens to be the combination of a home gym as well as a gym membership. All right, Mick saying thanks, and you're welcome. Reggie's joining in. Great info. Glad to have you join in, Reggie. Reggie's a regular over on our Muscle After 40 coaching program as well. And we have Bruce, another regular at our Muscle After 40 program, jumping in. He says, I'm jumping on live. He says, but I will have to catch the replay afterwards. And that's the cool thing about these. As soon as I'm finished this live stream, the replay will be posted up immediately after, so you can go back and catch up. We've got Matthew joining in. Welcome. Bruce saying, I literally watched all 4 of my grandparents resign to death being at their door, just slowly wither away over 10, 20 years, and now see my father turn into the same path. I'm going to break that cycle. You know, I respect that. Totally do. You know, I mean, like, do what you can to maximize the quality of your life. And I think most people, when they look back at it all, would much rather, you know, like, do it now while you still can, because, like, it's unfortunate when you see people get to the age where they give up hope, you know, whether they're so old, they're like, oh, what's the point? You know, like, I'm too old, like, who cares anymore? And it's sad to see people get to that point where the damage is done before they even consider taking proactive, you know, steps in the right direction. It's almost like a smoker says, yeah, I'm going to quit cigarettes, but I'll wait till I get cancer first and then I'll quit. Like, what? Well, the damage is done. Like, quit now while you still can, while you still can reverse things and make it change and a noticeable improvement in the future. Like, if you're at the stage now where it's not that bad, that's the time when you want to make a change. Like, a lot of people that I talk to who want to improve their health and fitness, they're like, yeah, I want to change, but I'm busy and everything else, and it's not the right time, or I got other responsibilities and blah, blah, blah. I'll do it later. And besides, it's not that bad yet. Well, if it's not that bad yet, that's when you want to make a change, because when it is too bad, the damage may be irreversible. Again, like the analogy of a smoker waiting until they get cancer before they decide to quit. Like, oh, I've been smoking for years. I don't have cancer yet, so it's not that bad. I'm going to keep smoking, and then when I get cancer and when it gets really bad, then I'll quit. Well, by the time it gets really bad, the damage is already done, and it's probably past the point of no return at that stage. Whereas if you take action now, well, while it's not that bad, you can actually make some noticeable changes and enjoy the results later on. So I respect that, Bruce, for sure. Breaking the cycle. Thanks for sharing that. We have Rod joining in. Welcome, Rod. Glad to have you joining in as well. All right. Well, guys, I think that pretty much clues up all the questions that came through on my end. I'm just going to do one final scan, and I think that was. So this actually works out really good because we're just past the hour mark. I ran out of questions, and I'm going to get ready to clue it up. So hopefully you enjoyed the video chat. I certainly enjoy doing these. And we'll be back again next Fridays, usually around the same time. I mean, it depends, the schedule. I'm just being honest here now. Like, if I have my co-host, Jeff Samatero, joining in, we usually do an earlier video chat. If I'm running solo, I usually do them around 5 p.m. Eastern time. So I usually post up in advance. I'll usually post up over on our Facebook page, you know, the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page, as well as my personal profile, the schedule in advance. So if you haven't already done so, make sure to friend me up over on Facebook. I got my link down in the description below, so check that out. And if there's anything that you would like to further our conversation on, like if you have any questions or anything that you would like to discuss, or maybe you have questions that weren't covered during our live chat, feel free to email me or Facebook message me, and we can chat offline. And if you would like some help with a customized fitness and nutrition program of your very own, feel free to reach out to me. I mean, again, the link's down in the description below. You can book in for a strategy session call, and we can brainstorm some ideas and action plans that are right for you. So if that's something you're interested in, again, pop open the video description, check out the links below, and reach out to me if you would like some help. And in the meantime, have yourself a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to chatting to you next week. Take care. Over and out. And we're going to end